Let's continue then with the next session, or with this session. Second part is going to be now with DNS servers. Someone can help me out here with DNS servers? Hello?
DNS servers, the purpose to resolve domain names, website names to IP addresses and vice versa. Client configuration. Clients are configured with the IP address of 2 DNS servers, usually through DHCP, and make requests of the server using what are called queries. How it works. Each DNS server has a database called the zone file, which maintains records of host name to IP address mappings. The organization's DNS server will be configured to perform the lookup of IP addresses for which it has no entry in its database by making requests of the DNS servers on the internet. The location. DNS servers can be located either inside the network or outside on the internet.
Thank you. So, as we saw in that question that was a little bit tricky the other day, in reference to the DNS itself, it does both IP to name and name to IP. Any questions overall on what DNS is and its function? Next slide. I'm sorry, go ahead. There's a question.
I was saying it's pretty simple once you just like look at it all. Bulleted out.
Okay. Thank you. Next slide, then. Who is our brave soul?
Got proxy servers. The purpose to make the internet connections on behalf of users in a network. Benefits prevents users from making direct connections to the internet and provides a point of exit at which you can control their access in a variety of ways. How it works: a company large enough to use a proxy server uses it as an intermediate server as follows. 1, client makes the request to the proxy. 2, the proxy substitutes its own IP address for the request using a NAT and then performs the actual request. 3, the proxy provides results back to the client. It is useful due to the overall control of access, caching, URL scanning, and content scanning, assuring all access is done with high security.
Any questions of the purpose and or its function?
Yeah, in your own words, can you describe the purpose again?
Well, what happens is, as we said, the internet always starts with www. It's the wild, wild west. So we have a lot of users in companies that unfortunately we tell them not to go places and they tend to go there anyway, right? So what they've done is they've created this server that actually does the job of representing you to go out. As I stated, you could have also the proxy servers. There's some of them that require you to log your ID and your password to be able to even get out into the internet, not the intranet, which would be any web server inside our domain. These would be obviously out in the internet itself. So he will function that by doing a NAT translation, just like a router does. So he will NAT the information onto a NAT table, and he also does it based on rules, just like almost like a access control list, right? He has the capable of actually scanning the URL content. So let's say if I say I don't want any web page that has the word sex, XXX, or any other bad word or any content that is unacceptable, this guy will not let you get there. To the point that some proxy servers then even give you a little thing saying, hey, you went to this naughty site, or, you know, I'm just making up words, but you went to a site that you weren't supposed to, and you've been reported. Believe it or not, it actually tracks and spits it out. And if you continuously go somewhere obviously you're going to be hitting somebody else's report of too many hits of trying to get to sites that you're not allowed to. Now, that's just one feature. The second feature, obviously, is just that, just to make sure that the content that's coming back is clean, too. Is it really clean to ensure that it doesn't have any type of Trojan horse or something that you really don't want? Some of them are that sophisticated, depending on what they have.
What about if you use a VPN? Will that go around the proxy, or?
If you use no, you won't. You need the VPN. You need to be able to get through the proxy. To get to the internet, you must go through the proxy. The door is the proxy. So let's draw this here. Here comes Diego again, drawing. Woohoo! So you're here, right? Then this is your router. It went to, basically, I'm just trying to make that this is a centralized location. That's their router. Here's their proxy server, right? So this is the main office. So he went and he gave it to this guy here, the proxy server, right? So what he does is basically grabs that information and he nats it with his information. So he moves yours, puts all of that in there based on anything that's here. If there's something that tells me I'm not supposed to go to this site, then right away I tell you you're not allowed to go. Just by the name of the site, maybe by the IP range that is giving me, whatever it is that I've decided that's not allowed, it'll make that decision at that time and say no. Now, let's say that port or whatever it is, you actually pass that rule, he comes back to the router, goes out to the internet with his information, right? Technically, the router information, right? Because he's going to NAT over here. The router's going to NAT for the proxy server. He's going to replace the proxy server's IP with his information. We all agree? So he gets this out in the internet, comes back in. The router, he can care less. What's going on? I have a NAT table that says this came from this location and I'm going to give it back to the proxy. That's who asked for it. Now, what does the proxy do? He checks his NAT. He says, okay, this is supposed to go to so-and-so, but does it fail any rule that is in here? If I am not allowed to let you do that, you're not going anywhere. That's high security. Both in and out traffic is checked by this guy. Since the router, at this point, the function of a router is useless. It doesn't have that type of security. It only routes traffic based on rules. Same thing. He only routes it here. So this guy makes sure he's the guy. What is it, like a little shield? He's the guy that makes sure. Obviously, some of them are very sophisticated and they have their own type of antivirus heuristic stuff in it, but that's not the main function of a proxy. I have rules, I have content scanning.
It sounds like a firewall.
No, a firewall basically does not proxy me. Firewall only ensures that the rule that's going through is legitimate traffic. That's all it does. I do not need anybody's permission to get through the firewall, except that I need to be able to say that the rule allows me. The firewall just says, hey, can you do this? Yeah, dale. Now this guy, he says, all right, are you allowed to go out to this part of the internet? Yes. Does it have, now that I know you can, when it comes back, does it have anything suspicious or anything that fails one of these rules? Then no. It only got to this guy, but he stops it at that point. If it's legitimate, then he just sends it right back to your computer, and then it keeps on ping-ponging like that. Ping, 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 ping. Obviously, that creates latency, as you can see, me going back and forth. but it creates security, obviously. That's the function of it, is making sure that, one, the traffic that's going through there is legitimate, and ensure that you're not going somewhere that you're not allowed. Any questions? All right, cool. Let's go to the next slide. Who's our brave soul? Alexa. Yes, I have to hit the little app here. I'll play with the app.
Proxy Servers configuration. Steps to configure Proxy Server in Windows 7. 1. Open Internet Options applet. 2. Go to Connections tab. 3. Click on LAN settings. 4. Enable Proxy Servers. 5. Add servers address and port.
Thank you. So that's basically the internet settings where you would actually go and set it up. Usually they give you a port, specifically the address and everything. Sorry, excuse me. As you see here, it has automatic detect. Some of them are have that feature. Any questions or doubts? Where you go in to changes? That's the internet properties. Now,
I have a question. It's not exactly about the configuration, but proxy servers can just be set up and distributed out on the internet, right? Just to like stay there. Because I remember in like back in high school,
it's for the intranet. It's an intranet device that's usually in the DMZ zone. That's what the proxy server, where the proxy server would be somewhere inside the DMZ zone. Everybody remember who or where is the DMZ? The demilitarized zone. That's usually where the proxy server is. It's surrounded by.
asking because
Go ahead.
Continue. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. What was you were asking because of what? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Because I remember in high school we used to use like proxy versions of YouTube and other gaming sites just to get by. And I kind of understood
Through them. That is correct. That is what you're doing. You're proxying through them. So you were basically a lot of people like to do that. That's a very cool trick. So now, what he's saying is, this is school, right?
Mm-hmm.
So school may had a proxy server, right? But the proxy server didn't have an ID and password for you guys, did it? It just allowed you to go to certain sites in the internet. So what they did is they only let them go to certain parts of the internet. They went to another proxy server that was legitimate and allowed them. It was a server that was allowed for you to go to, right? So what is the proxy server's job? He's gonna NAT for you, right? So everything that the server is doing for you, the proxy server in the school had no idea. Why? Because he's talking to that proxy server. That proxy server went and talked to the internet, got back the information, said, hi. Oh yeah, by the way, here, just give this back to Jordan. So it was a sneaky way to go out into the internet, because basically the one that he was talking to in the eyes of the first proxy server was just to that proxy server. He's okay. He's a nice guy. Hey, how you doing? I got more mail for Jordan. Here you go. That's yeah, that's sneaky. And a lot of people also try using VPNs too. So VPN tunnel to maybe to somewhere like in Europe or in China. And then
the VPNs didn't really work.
Some VPNs do work, because they then if you're on that get to create a VPN tunnel to that side of the internet. You're coming out in the Europe. So you went in the United States. So this is a problem you're not realizing. So when you went to that, if it was a good VPN site, your tunnel would start here in the United States where there's a legitimate site that you can go to, right? But as soon as you go to that site, all traffic beyond that has been encapsulated. So they don't know what's going on. That part of the tunnel is controlled by the VPN, which they go and send you out through Europe or China, depending what door you want to come out. Any questions in reference to the proxy? All right. Next slide. Brave souls.
Mail servers. The purpose: to send, receive, and manage emails. How it works: to be a mail server, the computer must be running an email server package. The most popular ones are Microsoft Exchange, SendMail, Postflix, and XM, although there are dozens of others. Client configuration. Users will use a client email protocol to retrieve their email from the server. Two of the most common are POP3, or POP3, which is a retrieve-only protocol, and IMAP4, which has more functionality and can be used to manage the email on the server. SMTP is used to send emails. Management, usually managed by either big companies like Google, Gmail, Microsoft, which is Outlook, or Yahoo. Internally, in an organization where the IT department is responsible for keeping the mail server running 24/7.
Thank you. Any questions in mail server, how it works, or purpose? All right, let's go to the next one. Here's our picture, basically, as we see the email guy asking the internet. 25 is his port. It's sent out, comes in, gets received on the other end. This is obviously because I send it out, right? Gets to the other guy, comes in through POP 110, and I received over here. I send it out on 25. He receives it on 110. Or she. Questions? Next slide. Daniel.
You're muted.
You're muted, Pops.
My bad. All right. Authentication servers. Purpose: to authenticate servers, users, or computers to the network so that they can access network resources. How it works: the authentication server stores users or device credentials, such as a user names and passwords, validate an authentication request, and determines the permissions assigned to each user, device, or group. Active Directory is the authentication server for Windows domains. And authentication for most users is to require credentials are a username and password. To increase security, some systems require multiple items in addition to a username to authenticate users, such as a password and a security token.
Thank you. Any questions in reference to an authentication server, its purpose, how it works, or the authentication itself? All right. So, I know it says here gallery walk, but we will just, I guess, only maybe if you want to put it in the text or if you want to shout it out, however you feel how to partake in this part. But basically, if you can you guys, no, I don't think you could write on my screen. Yeah, I guess the whiteboard is the only thing we can do, right? Using 1 through 5, I'm sorry, 1 through 8, if you can just put the number and then basically I'll give you guys about a minute there to think about it and then just write down a brief description. So if I was number 1, I would put 1 provides access to websites. Lack of a better short termination. That's what we're looking for there. Questions or doubts? I'll give you guys a chance. So inside the chat, if you guys can give me what you believe each is here.
So everybody like does one and we give our own, or should we like coordinate?
No, yeah. Whichever you guys think. If you know which one it is, just shut out. As long as eventually the whole team starts giving me the all 8. That's all I'm expecting. Yeah. So if somebody knows one, they put I got 1, and the other one says I got 7, whatever, and then think about what you're about to write and write it. Basically, I think that should be sufficient. Okay, so Mohammed told us that the web server, number 1 is to store, process, and deliver web pages to users. I would have to agree with that, right, guys? We have here for file servers, number 2, the purpose is to store users' files and make them available to users. Yes. DHCP, I skipped this one, sorry, number 4, to automate the process providing an IP configuration to devices on the network. Correct. That's the main function. At the same time, we said he also reserves the static IPs to make sure that it doesn't get assigned to anybody. DNS servers, number 5, used to resolve domain names or website names to IP addresses, vice versa. Authentication server, number 8, is a database that has the user's information that needs to pass a security test, username and password. For example, you need software like AD, correct. Next one, mail transfer and delivery over the network. Correct, number 7. Number 6, proxy, a computer system or router that functions as a relay between client server. But it is a server. You need to understand that it's a server. So the server himself is the one that relays the message. The most important part is that it has content filtering. I understand, yes, he does natting, so that may be confusing some of you in the aspect that it does part of the function of a router. But although it does NAT, which is one of the things it does, his main function is content filtering and making sure that you're not breaking any of the rules that were set. And when the traffic comes, after you have passed that one, after it does come back, it again scans and makes sure that it is legit and that it is allowed. Questions on proxy? All right, print servers. Manages one or multiple printers, provides spool service, and manage and store print requests. Pretty good. Those very, can't get any further. I think that was all of them. Did we do 5? We did number 5 already, right? Did we do number? Yeah, DNS. Yes. Never mind. I'll stop talking to myself. Somebody wants to talk to me. Jesus, they just let me swim. Woo! I'll be here all day, guys. Next one. Who's the brave soul? Teresa. That's what the app says.
Do you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, so network service security. Security is vital when using network services, as most of the data that is stored on the server is accessed remotely. Security should include the server using Secure Shell, which is a cryptographic network protocol for secure data communication, remote command line login, remote command execution, secure network connectivity through VPN between 2 network computers that connects via a secure channel over an insecure network.
Thank you. Any questions? Pretty self-explanatory, that one, right? Next slide. Who's our next brave soul? I heard somebody was about to talk earlier. Who was it? I think it was Pablo.
Sure, I can go.
Oh, thank you, DeAndre. Cool.
Main network security appliances. Many of the exploits that come into the network environment are coming across the network, especially from the internet. That is the reason to have special devices to look for these types of exploits. The most common network security appliances are firewall, intrusion detection system, intrusion prevention system, and UTM.
Anybody know who is UTM? Not ETM, UTM. It's the Unified Threat Management one. That one basically has all in one, usually a lot of stuff in it of these security appliances. So we all know what a firewall is and understand what a firewall is. Have anyone of you ever heard of an IDS system, intrusion detection system, or an IPS?
I have.
Heard of it, but didn't know what it meant at the time.
Cool. We're going to be reviewing those real soon here. So who's our next victim?
I'll go.
All right, go ahead.
All right, so
Slide 24.
yeah. Firewalls. A firewall can be either software or on a computer to protect that computer or a physical device to block unwanted traffic. Software firewall is a host-based firewall. A large corporation might use a software firewall called a corporate firewall installed on a specific device between the internet and the internal domain network. Hardware firewall can have multiple interfaces, allowing varying levels of security better than software. A router is commonly used as a firewall if it has the features to do it. Firewalls protect the network in one of two ways. Packet filtering firewall, which inspects the traffic based solely on a packet's header using ACL rules, and stateful firewall, which allows the traffic originated from inside the network and blocks traffic originated on internet.
Okay, thank you. I think we kind of reviewed this one a little bit before. Any questions overall? Next is the IDS. Next brave soul is? Okay. Carlos?
Yeah. An IDS is responsible for detecting unauthorized access or attacks. It can verify, itemize, and characterize threats from outside and inside the network. Most IDS are programmed to react in certain ways in specific situations, mainly through event notifications and alerts. These notifications and alerts inform administrators and security professionals when and where attacks are detected. The most common way to classify an IDS is based on its information source, network-based or host-based. The most common is the network-based IDS, and an IDS which monitors network traffic on a local network segment by configuring the NIC to operate in promiscuous mode.
Yeah, the NIC card to be in promiscuous mode. Anybody understand what promiscuous mode is?
I don't.
Anyone?
Promiscuous means passive mode, or maybe.
I'm sorry?
It can mean passive mode.
Basically, usually the network interface card is usually not listening to everybody that is talking. Promiscuous mode is basically making sure that it's trying to receive all the traffic that's being passed through there. It allows basically to intercept and read each packet. So instead of just only listening for his own, he's actually reading it. Usually you have a software like Wireshark and some other software that allows you to compile this information into a more easier way to filter and decipher the information. You're literally capturing the packets. And then it changes it from being from ones to zeros into hexadecimal and even to what we call clear text. That kind of makes sense now. Remember that the switch usually is meant only to forward packets and stuff like that. So you might also have to set up the switch to make sure that it sends the information to that port. Any other questions or doubts? So you have NIPS and you have NIDS. NIPS is the Network Intrusion Detection Device, all right? And then you have NIPS, which is your Network Intrusion Protection. So that's the NIPS. Also, you have the HIPS and you have the HIDS. So the HIDS is the host. That is one that is actually on your computer, a program. So anything that starts with H is the host intrusion detection system. So if it's a HIDS, all it's going to do is going to say, hey, this doesn't look right. That's all he's doing. He's listening. He's going, I don't think you should be doing that. And then so he goes in, I'm going to write you up. This guy's doing this. That's what it's doing. It's just basically writing a report. It's useless. But obviously, in the case of you don't want to stop traffic and you just want to check for something that is weird, that's sometimes beneficial for a network engineer or for somebody in the security area of any that's looking at reports, right? That was the HIDS. Now the NIDS. The NIDS itself is the actual device. So then the device is connected into the switch. And so the switch is going to send everything that's going on here. Everybody that's talking around in my network, I'm going to send the information to this port. And then this network device, it's an appliance now. It's no longer a software that's on your computer. This device now is going to do the same thing. You're going to start like, and then you'll send it out to a server who has like a SIM, usually a security one that has all these reports, and he spits it out to him. You could also see it inside the device itself, but usually you send it out to a SIM. That is all it does. It just lets them know that there's something weird going on. That's IDS. Now we're going on to IPS, which we have HIPS or NIPS. And IPS, though, scans the actual traffic, and if he sees something's wrong, it's not going to happen here. It's not the same as a proxy, because this guy now, for it to work, he's inline, right? He's no longer going to be like the NIDS, right? I told you he's only connected to a port. So the NID's listening there to everybody talking, but it's old news, right? Because they already went through. Everybody talked, and then the switch is just sending me all of the echo. As soon as everybody's talking, he's just sending me the echo. A NIPS, actually the port comes from the router per se, comes into the NIPS device, goes into the switch. 2 ports. Just like a bridge, you could say it's going to bridge those connections. The NIPS now makes sure that everything that's coming in and out is legitimate. There's no way. Now it's inline. So as soon as it comes in, he's checking and inspecting every single packet. If it doesn't see that it looks correct, if it has some type of heuristic look in reference to a virus, you're not coming in. Obviously, these things can be adjusted, and there could be false positive, and there could be false negatives, and those are dangerous. Obviously, as I stated, then NIPS is the Network Intrusion Protection System, and then HIPS is basically a host intrusion prevention system, usually installed on the host. No, and then obviously there's no appliance, so the only thing that it's protecting is the host. Doing the same thing, Only that is when it gets to the host, gets to the NIC card, he checks and does exactly the same thing. If this is malicious, not happening. Any questions? So there's 4 of them, guys. You gotta remember that. There's 2 IPSs and there's 2 IDSs. So it's NIPS, NIDS, HIPS, HIDS. And the ones that are Ds are just detect. That's all they do. UTMs. These are also known as web security gateways. Why? Look at all the features this puppy brings. He's got gateway antivirus built in, gateway anti-spam, VPN, content filtering, load balancing, data leak prevention. Anyone want to know what's DLP?
Making sure the information doesn't go where it's not supposed to go. In other words, they have a copy of stuff that you're not supposed to let other people get.
Yeah, in simplest terms, it's that. It's basically a security strategy to prevent overall the leak of information. So it actually monitors unauthorized attempts and access to store or send data. Pretty sophisticated sucker. Questions? Obviously, this is a beautiful thing because now instead of buying all these different things, my firewall, my NIPS, my gateway antivirus or an anti-spam device, a VPN concentrator, instead of buying all these things, I can buy this one thing. Horrible thing is, for security purposes, you never want to put all your eggs in one basket. This is obviously a very cost-effective device for small mom and pops. At the same time, one device, one point of failure, one security that I got to get, one point of security that I got to get through. NIPS also are throughout all networks. In other words, you may have a NIPS on your LAN, you may have a NIPS in your DMZ, and you may have a NIPS obviously on your WAN connection right before the firewall. No lie. That's depending on the grade or the amount of security that you want. Any questions? Continue then to the next slide. All right. So it's going to be thumbs up if you believe is true, and then the little wavy hand if you believe this is a lie. A proxy server is a go-between for you and the outside world. Thumbs up if you believe it's true, and the little wavy hand if it's a lie. Okay. Number 2, an example of a proxy server is Google. Okay, I got a bunch of yeses and 1 no. So Christina, why no?
I'm not sure, to be honest. That's why I just put no.
That was a good guess. That was a very, very well educated guess. Google is a web server. It's not a proxy server. Can I go to Google and ask him to proxy for me? Jordan, you should know that one.
You can make a proxy version of Google, however. I'm not sure how effective that would be.
Remember, proxy server is going to go and relay the message for me. So he's not relaying. Do I ever go to Google and then he actually hosts the page for me? No, he just gives me a link. He's just a search engine. A web server that has a web server who has a search engine. That's all he has. then he gives me the link, and then I go to whatever server I want. But he can't, if I come into Google and I want to go to look for a incorrect kind of site, whatever I'm looking for, he's not gonna go and basically let me go into the, if my proxy server does not. All he's doing is just giving me information. Good guess there, Christina, thank you. Next one, a proxy server can detect intrusions. True or false?
Honestly, I knew the other two were true, and that's why I just went no with that one.
A proxy server can detect intrusions? So is a proxy server sophisticated enough to say that if it doesn't have the contact, in other words, when I'm filtering content, that means that I'm looking for those keywords, right? Or pages with pictures that shouldn't be. That's my job is that. I basically look at it. Oh, that's nice. Okay, yeah, you can go through. Oh, that looks beautiful. But what happens when a Trojan horse comes in? Hey, how you doing, buddy? Come on in. You look great. That's not detecting anything. He's not seeing anything. Why? Because you asked for it to come in. All the rules said that you can. There's nothing in here that says that the content is incorrect, content-wise. Heuristic, which is in reference to actual viruses and looking at the actual Word document that looks like it's a Trojan horse, obviously. It looks legitimate. It's a Word document. But hold on a second. He's got this little tag on him, just like DNA. It has his little DNA trait on him. It can actually go and look at it and say, you're infected. You can't come in here. That's what the prevention one does. The detection says, you're infected. I'm reporting you to the CDC. That's basically that. But proxy, he won't detect intrusions. He's not going to know. He has no idea. He's only looking at a set of rules of what can and cannot come in reference to content. Any questions? All right, here. Two truths and a lie. Which one's a lie here?
The one in the middle.
Number 2.
Everyone agree? All right.
I agree.
Two truths and a lie. Which one?
I think it's 1. Multi-launch.
Yes, yeah, it is unified. United Threat Maintenance. That's pretty cute. Any questions?
I prefer to be called that instead.
Two truths and a lie. Which one's a lie?
I'm gonna say 1 because it's weird.
Yeah,
Like,
I agree.
ports on firewalls, I meant Wi-Fi only. Firewalls can do way more than that.
Correct. Two truths
Especially
and a lie.
to external firewall.
What's the next one?
I'm gonna say 3.
That seems to be the only oddball.
Yeah.
Malicious software. That's right. Malicious. Woo! So, you know what I find very interesting, Jordan? You seem to know where every proxy server is in the internet.
Hey Jordan, how much is for your services? I got some secret messages.
This guy can get you through any proxy server, man. Just ask him where do you want to get out through? You want to get out through China? You want to come out in Australia? They'll tell you which one's the right proxy server to get through.
I had a lot of free time.
I didn't know that. I really didn't know Google had a proxy server function in or a site that you can go through. I didn't know that.
I'm pretty sure most sites
yeah, but I didn't know it had actually proxy server available. That's pretty cool. And now you know, and knowing is half the battle. So, who's the brave souls? Number 1. What kind of server uses IPP? Mohammed.
It's B print server.
Thank you. Everyone agree?
I agree.
Okay.
You know me. Hey. Oh, no. Number 2, Jordan. I can't hear you.
Which of the following network hosts would most likely provide the services needed to allow clients access to internet web pages? Be a web server. Unless I'm reading this wrong.
Well, I agree with you. I think it's web server.
Me too.
Everyone agree it's a web server?
Thinking proxy?
Wait, where do questions?
Number 2, we're on question number 2. Which of the following network hosts, or in other words, which of the following servers would most likely provide the service needed to allow clients to access the internet web pages?
Which is the key word, most likely, or internet?
Most likely provide the service. The service need to allow the client to access what? What is he going to access? The internet web pages. So who lets you do that?
Should be a web server. A proxy server would be an alternative.
Okay.
In the case that
so what's the job of a web server?
Providing you
like a search engine.
Okay, yeah, that's one job of that web server. But ultimately, what does it do? It hosts what? It hosts websites, right? Usually, and then it has connections to databases or whatever. Its main function is to provide or host connections to a website. Does it give you access to the internet page? Do I use a web server to access internet web pages?
Oh.
So which server, if I'm in a company, I use to access
a proxy server?
Web server. Yeah, there we go. Keyword is access. Keyword is access. It's not trying to browse or to, and it's need to allow. Service to need to allow. It's not just service to view internet pages or anything like that. It's a very tricky question though. I like it. I like these little tricky questions because that's get your brain thinking. Number 3. Anyone?
C.
A technician contacts the network administrator to request a list of all static IPs in the building. Which of the following server roles would the technician most likely review to find this information of the static IP addresses in the building? I'm sorry, someone said something?
I said C.
C.
I agree.
Everyone agree? DHCP server?
Yeah.
Correct. Number 4. When a PC first connects to the network, it attempts to lease an address from what server? Hello?
B. B.
I agree. B.
B as in boy?
I think it's D.
E is in boat.
Okay. DHCP server. That is correct. He screams out to the world. He broadcasts to the world because he doesn't have an IP, right? So he broadcasts out to the world saying, hey, I need an address. And then the server responds, well, I got this address available via unicast back. Then he says, yes, I want it. So he sends it and gives it to him. Number 5. Which of the following answers refers to a cryptographic network protocol for secure data communications, remote command line login, remote command executions, and other secure network services between 2 network computers?
SSH.
I agree. SSHB. Secure shell host. No. Secure host, I think.
Secure socket.
I think it's a secure shell.
No, I think it is security socket actually. Secure socket.
SSH. None of you know it's SSH. I thought they're gonna go in. You're gonna most likely have to recognize SSH before you need to know the word, but obviously it looks much more professional. Exactly what the word is. I know it's secure socket layer is SSL, and maybe secure socket host is SSH. I don't remember the full acronym for SSH.
Secure shell or secure socket shell?
All right.
According to Google.
Okay, secure shell or secure socket shell. Okay, there we go. Now we know. And knowing is half the bottom. That's about it for this one here. Any questions or doubts?
Nope.